What's up? Welcome back YouTube, and this video is specifically for the Lagos, Nigeria airport. And this is information that I just either gathered beforehand or everything that I've witnessed while in the actual Nigeria airport. So I'm hoping it's not going to help you too much just because it's going to be crazy regardless of when you go, but it can at least mentally prepare you for when you do go, because I will say it is crazy. So this is something that happened on my trip that set my mind right mentally so I would not be flustered, you could say, when I got to Nigeria. And that was the whole visa process. How it works is you have to book an appointment, and at least for the DC, if you're getting a visa and not a passport, they outsource the processing and everything to this center called OIS. I forgot what it stands for, but they process mostly visas for Nigeria specifically. You have to set up an appointment, but one, it'll take forever to get an appointment. So I think I booked my appointment in maybe like March or April and couldn't get an appointment till September. So that kind of shows you, one, how many people there are, but how busy everything is. We get to the day of the appointment. So I go in, I have all the documentation. You know, they ask you for your passport, all that information, photo, bank account to make sure you got enough money, this form you gotta fill out, or one or two forms you gotta fill out. And then also you gotta show that you have proof of where you're staying and your flight. And then you have to get a quote unquote invitation letter from somebody to kind of say they're responsible for you while you're in Nigeria. So you need all of that. So I come to the office, got all of that, and there's nobody in the office. It's a pretty small office. I go through the whole process. They fingerprint you, take my picture. When I'm ready to go, the dude was like, "You got your envelope?" I'm like, "What envelope?" And so apparently they make you pay for the Priority Express envelope for when they ship your documents back to you after your passport is processed. Mind you, they didn't tell you any of this when you make your appointment, so I had to run to the post office and get the Priority Mail Express envelope, which is like $26, and then bring it back. And I'm like, all right, bet, I'm set, I'm leaving. One of my friends calls me because he has an appointment later that day. And so he's like asking if I could help print him something because he forgot and he was on the way. I go print his thing for him at Staples. As I'm on my way home, I'm like, damn, I need my passport because I have a flight to Jamaica. I was going to Jamaica for my sister's birthday literally the next day, and I had taken a day off the day before just so I can run errands, get things done, get what I need. Turn around, I go back to the office. I'm like, I'm gonna need my passport. Like, can y'all take a copy or like a scan of it? And they're like, no, we need a passport. And the dude was like so nonchalant, like, well, he made it seem like I should miss my trip for the joint. Like, nah, you can't really get it back. I'm like, nah, go get that and give me my passport. So he eventually did it, and he's like, well, you're going to have to schedule another appointment. I'm like, that's fine. I'll take my chances. You know how I said it takes a minute to get your appointment scheduled just because they'd be so busy. But I was like, I'm going to take my chances and just give me my passport because I'm going on this trip. Like, I was hyped for that trip. So he gives it back to me. I was going to take my documents with me, and he's like, nah, it's fine. We'll keep it till you come. And I'm like, all right, cool. So now when I come back, I'll just drop it off. I'm thinking it'll be like a quick transaction. When I come back, I'm dropping it off. They file it with my stuff, and then, they can process it. So after I come back from my trip, I try to schedule this appointment. In my head, I feel like I should be able to just drive up and drop it off and everything be good. But they're like, no, you need to schedule an appointment. So I schedule my appointment because I couldn't do it online because they were booked through January. My trip was mid-December. So I'm like, well, that's not gonna fly. So I had to call, and they gave me a spot like 2 weeks later, but I had to pay a $50 express fee. But I was spending money anyway, so I was like, it is what it is now. So I make this appointment. 2 weeks later, I'm going to the appointment, and I literally come up like, yeah, I'm just dropping off my passport. I talked to you a couple weeks ago. This is what you said. This is what happened. I describe everything to him, and he's acting like he don't remember me. I'm like, yeah, I get us a lot of things, a lot of people in and out of here, but what I'm saying? I explained everything. He's like, oh, okay, I think I do remember you. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm just dropping it off. He's like, you have your documents? And I was like, nah, I left it with y'all because you said y'all can hold on to it. He said, nah, man, like, we shred and dispose of everything after. And I'm like, you cannot be serious, bruh. Like, I literally asked this man, because I was going to take it back, and he's like, no, it's fine, we'll hold it. And now he's telling me, throw it away. So I had to run to Staples. I called my sister. I'm like, can you go on my computer, send me this folder that I have with all my documents, print everything out at Staples, and then I had to run to CVS and get my passport style photo. So I had to do that. That's like another $15. And mind you, right before CVS, I had to take a phone call for work in my car. Like, I pulled up the laptop. I was trying to take notes because I had to take notes and everything. I'm like, bro, this is so much work. Like, all of this stuff could have been avoided if everything went as planned. Like, was so simple. So I get everything else. I come back, give them all my stuff now. Then they gotta fingerprint me and take a picture again. I'm like, finally. But it kind of just was like a precursor, like yeah, there's gonna be some humps and hurdles, all of this stuff, that everything that seems easy and streamlined, you can have a simple process for. I don't know what, I don't want to, make judgments, but everything like relating to Nigerians when it comes to organization and processes, like they make things more difficult than they have to be. So all of that was just on U.S. soil dealing with Nigerian Americans. So now I'm gonna describe the process of going to Nigeria, like the actual transit airport part, and then coming back. So when I'm in Qatar on my way to Nigeria, Qatar is one of those hubs for people going to Nigeria. It's like one of the key layover spots, in addition to, I think, Cairo and France are like the other top two that I saw. You know how when they call for people on the airplane, they call it by zone or group number, and literally on the first group, everybody's trying to finagle in, cut in line, and it's just funny because that's another precursor to just how everything operates in Nigeria. Like, all the staff are trying to tell you, if you're in this group, and if you're not in this group, get out of line, stay in line, like, this is the line, and it's just not clicking for a lot of people just because that's not their culture. So that was like the first taste of like all the hustle and bustle. But once you get off the plane and you're going through customs, it's like a long hallway, and this is where you go to like the immigration and customs. And it's funny to me because I'm seeing signs that's saying like anti-bribery, call this number, report this through the hotline if somebody's asking for bribes and stuff, just because it's customary that people ask for bribes, or either to expedite your process, or sometimes they might try to just bribe you and say like your documentation isn't right just so they can make a little bit more money. Like, the stories got out recently right before my trip, so then that's why all these signs are popping up. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, uh-oh, like, what am I in for? So I get in the first line, and this line, they really just checking your passport and your like your COVID test. Make sure you're supposed to be there. And so the COVID test, you're supposed to take it 48 hours before. I was a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie, just because my test was maybe 52 hours, like 56 hours, but it wasn't quite 48. And I'm like, please do not mess around and try to play me for this. But luckily, like, it was fine. I think they just look if it's negative, but you never know depending on who you're dealing with, especially there. So that was fine. I waited in that line maybe 15, 20 minutes. Then you go down this ramp and you get in this another line. This one is a little bit, is more so for immigrations. It's a little bit, I guess, more strict. Like, you need to fill out this other immigration form. But the thing is, nobody tells you to pick it up. Luckily, my friend, she had some type of connect within the airport. I guess he worked there, and he basically just helped guide me and facilitate me through everything. He sped up the process for me a little bit, not as much as some of the other people helping that I saw, but he did a pretty good job because it was not as stressful as I was thinking it might get. So he's the one who told me about the form, but nobody told you about the form. It was just like sitting in a basket. So you need to fill that form out, this immigration form. So I filled that out, and then you wait in a line for somebody who, it basically look over your form and they like stamp it or like write something on it. And it was crazy to me because like the line has like 50 people, it's wrapping around. People are trying to fight to be in the line, but then you go on this line just for them to stamp it, and then once they do that, you get in another line, but there's no space. So if I can describe it correctly, like imagine I'm the first person that checks it. The long line is for me to check it and provide that stamp. The person immediately next to me then might take your picture and do your fingerprints. But once I stamp it, it's not like you go immediately to him. Then there's another line, but there's no space for an actual line to congregate of like 10 people just to get your finger stamped. And it's like, this is just more work and steps that doesn't really help, but it's just like a nuisance. So it took me forever to get my things stamped. So the person who was helping me, he like took me to the line for native Nigerians. He like talked to the dude. The dude just stamped it. So then I could at least get in the second part of the line to get it. And so then I did that. I'm like, thank you. Now I can just wait for my bags. And so the airport, it's not big at all. It's like it's on the smaller side, at least from what I've seen. And so there were only 2 belts for getting your luggage, right? And our plane was the last one to come in, I think, for the day. So we didn't have to worry about like other planes or anything like that. I think the airport closes earlier than most, like around 7 or 8, and my plane got in around 4:35. But with everything going on, it took people a long time to leave. But I'm waiting in line at the belt. It said it was at maybe 25-30% of people got their stuff, and so it's been like at least 30 minutes, and everybody's looking around like, I know they didn't lose our luggage. And mind you, like, at least for me, I was stressing out because I had a layover in Qatar. So I'm wondering, like, was I supposed to pick my luggage up in Qatar and then like check it back in? Like I read, you're supposed to like leave it just if your layover is short or shorter, like they'll automatically do it. But I'm like, were they lying to me? Like, did somebody mess up? And then 30 minutes go by, then about 45 minutes have passed now, and then they're like, oh, everything's going to the belt on the other side. So then it's like a mad rush. Everybody left, goes to the other side. And some people might have had one piece of their luggage, but not everything. So it's a mad rush to the other side. And then, so more people are starting to get their stuff. But it's been like hour 15 now since I've just been waiting for my luggage. Just not counting like the immigration stuff. This is just since I've been sitting there waiting for my luggage. And so like all these thoughts are just in my head. You know, I'm an overthinker anyway. But I'm like, wow, like I'm really gonna have to buy a whole wardrobe out here. Like, no, I didn't have nothing important, so I'm not mad about it. But it's just like I'm like, wow, really. And then finally, like after an hour and a half total, my first bag comes. I'm like, okay. And then my second bag comes, but my second bag was literally like one of the last 10 pieces of luggage to come out. And it's a bigger plane too. So like that just tells you. And then right when I was getting my second bag or waiting for my second bag, the person who was helping me, he had left to assist somebody else. So he's like, wait for me and like, don't talk to nobody, don't leave anybody else, just wait till I come back. Cause he had been in contact with the driver. The driver thought I was getting there around like 2:30, so the driver had been parked waiting for me since like 2:30. And I'm like, I didn't know this. I'm thinking he's updating the driver. The driver gets here when it's, closer to the time. But he was going to lead me. Basically, the helper was going to lead me to the driver. So I'm waiting. I wait maybe like 15 minutes for him. He comes back to get me. And so he literally like navigates through the exit to get to the exit. I go to the exit and he basically hands me off to the driver. It's funny to describe like I'm the piece of luggage at that point, but that's literally what it was. Like this is your driver, like he'll take care of you, you're good now, thank you. And I was going to tip him, but he started walking off and it didn't look like he wanted a tip. So, and also he might have been an airport employee, so it might look bad if anybody caught him. So I was like, because he didn't like turn around and stay that long, I was like, oh well. So that was that. Once I'm handed off, there's like, you gotta walk to the garage, which basically like there's like a little hill, and then once you get on top of the hill, you gotta cross the street to get into the garage. So mind you, this whole path is just people just hassling you for money, and like it's ridiculous. Like literally like every 3 steps is somebody. Like there's a lot of people like holding wads of cash, trying to get you to exchange your cash with them. And mind you, this is illegal. There's signs literally right next to them saying like no I forgot the word, but like no transfer of cash or currency, like illegal currency exchange and whatever the term they use there is. And I'm like, they're standing right next to him with like a big wad of cash trying to get you exchange. There's people literally just trying to carry your luggage. Like they will grab your luggage and try to take it and to help you, and then expect a tip or a payment because they helped you, but they'll literally try to take it out your hands. So there's like a lot of people trying to do that. A lot of people trying to sell you stuff. There will be some people asking for a donation, like dressed in like kind of remind me of like Girl Scouts or something, but they were like full grown adults asking like, can you donate to the kids? It was weird too. Like they were trying to use better looking women to like do the quote unquote donation charity thing. But basically this whole hill is like all of that. Then you gotta cross a busy street to get to the garage, and then that's the end of my getting to Lagos airport experience, and that was a lot in itself. But now I gotta tell you a little bit about coming back, because that was even worse in my opinion. So now let me tell you my experience trying to come back, and this was crazy. So first I get dropped off, and on the website and things, like they're saying you should get there 5 to 6 hours ahead of time. And I'm wondering like why they said that for Lagos, and then every other place they're saying like 3 hours. But because of the logistics of everything that was going on that day, I got there around 3.5 hours early. So in my head I'm like, well, hopefully Hopefully it's not as crazy or it doesn't take as long as people make it seem. So I get there, literally, as soon as I'm about to get out the car, there's literally two of them, shall I say, Girl Scouts outside. One actually starts opening the door, asking for donations. Like one joint is like, "Oh, you kind of cute," or something like that, right before asking for donations. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, please don't start. And I have two bags. One is a regular bag. One's kind of like a duffel hybrid, so it's a little bit hard to maneuver both, just because like the dimensions and everything. And I had brought the duffel because I thought I'll be able to set it on top of my regular suitcase, but it actually made it a little bit more difficult because it doesn't stand up straight, and the dimensions it would slide off and everything. So that was a bad idea. Long story short, so I had to walk down this hill. I'm going, and first off, there's like two separate entrances. I don't know what the difference was. There's no signs. I just know the one I was looking at said international. I was hoping this was right, but it wasn't clear. I just see a line. It was closer to me. The other line was, maybe like, I don't know yardage, but at least 50 to 60 yards down. So I'm like, I'll just get in this line. As I'm in the line, there's like a random dude. He looks like he could work there by how much he looks like he knows. Asking like, "What airline are you?" Telling people where they need to go. So he asked me, I'm like, Qatar. He's like, "Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go over there," and trying to drag my bags and stuff. And I already set my mind like, anytime somebody trying to grab my bags or help me, I'm not listening. Like for one, I'm not listening to them, and two, I'm not about to pay them to do that. So I'm like, nah, it's fine. I'll just wait in this line. Like after going back and forth for like a minute, then he leaves and like, oh well. So I'm waiting in line. I waited in this line for maybe about 10 minutes. And so in this line, they're just checking your passport to see if you're actually traveling. They were like, only travelers can actually go in the airport. You couldn't even go in the airport unless you were traveling. That's number one. So then right after that, there's somebody sitting down who checks your passport again, literally like 5 feet from them, and this is right before you go into the airport. Then you go into the airport and you got to put your luggage through a security screen. And now you can get your boarding ticket and go where you need to go. So I'm in there, I'm looking around, and where I'm at, it's like one random airline that I hadn't heard of. So I'm looking around. There's no signs that really say this way or this way. So I'm kind of like walking aimlessly a little bit. So I was like, forget it. I'm just gonna pick a direction and walk. So I start walking this way. I'm walking, and I guess I'm still looking around a lot, making sure I know where I'm going. And then finally somebody that works there is like, what airline? All right, yeah, it's this way. But the thing was, the reason I was like looking aimlessly was because I thought I had been walking for a minute and I still didn't see it. So I was like, dang, hope I didn't go in the wrong direction. And I was in the right direction. It just, I had to walk way further. So it turns out the guy outside was right, but you know, I'll take my chances. I still got where I need to go. Because it's during COVID season, I had to print out my COVID results, and you had to print for 1,000 naira, which was $2. If you were to think like on one side is where all the airlines are doing the ticketing and stuff. On the other side, there's just a whole bunch of stands with people with computers to. They're all independent businesses, but they're like right next to each other just to print out COVID tests. I mean, it's to print out other documents if you need them too, but mainly just COVID tests. I'm like, wow, they really made a whole nother business because of COVID. So they're charging $2 to print one little sheet. Basically, that's the equivalent $2 to print one little sheet. But it's like it is what it is. I need to get rid of this money anyway. So I print my sheet. Then I go to get in line. This is so you can get your boarding pass and check your baggage. So if you notice, I'm wearing something completely different. I went and tried to edit, and then I noticed that my camera cut off some time while I was talking, so I probably wasted 10 minutes of breath. This is like a whole week later, and I'm going to try to fill in where I missed footage. So normally when you go to the airport, I would say there's maybe 4 or 5 steps that you go through. You get to the airport and you check your bags and you get your boarding pass. Then someone checks your boarding pass to make sure it matches you. Then you go through security, and then once you get through security, you usually just have one person at the gate who scans your boarding pass. And so if I were to count that up, I would say that's about 4 checkpoints. But here in Lagos, it is completely different. So I'm going to describe all the different checkpoints once I got into the airport. So first, someone weighed my bag to check to make sure it was under the 50-pound limit, which I knew mine were. And once they did that, they gave me a form which I had to fill out. It was I don't know what it was actually, but it was a form. I think it might have been COVID specifically. So as I'm in line, the lines are wrapped around. Then I had to get another form from somebody else, and while they gave me a form, they were checking the form that I literally just got. So that was 2 checkpoints already. And in the meantime, while I'm trying to fill out this form, someone is trying to check my COVID test to make sure it's valid and accurate. They had to scan it. And this is all upon 2 minutes of being in the line to get my boarding pass. So as I'm slowly moving through the line, there's one person giving out this yellow form you gotta fill out. So I get that. One other person checks some of the documents that I filled out while I'm in line. So they gave me the documents, and somebody else checked it all at the same time. So then when I think I'm at the end, then there's somebody checking your forms and documents that you have next to your passport. And this is before you even get your boarding pass. So I do that, and I think, okay, this is the last person, because I'm almost at the front now to get my boarding pass. And then they tell me, no, you got to go to this other person. And mind you, this person is literally sitting right next to the person who just checked my passport. So I'm thinking they do the same function, but this guy, he looks at the same documents and stamps something. So that's like an extra 5 minutes of waiting when people are literally checking the same exact documents for the same thing. Once I'm in line, I'm waiting. I'm at the front of the line, but I'm waiting there at least 5, almost 10 minutes, because as soon as I'm ready to go, the person at the desk goes to the bathroom. So I'm just sitting there, and everybody just takes, for some reason, everything is so slow. Everybody's taking so much time. So eventually, one of the people who's checking people in line is told to handle some of the like the boarding pass and checking your bags, because it was holding things up. So I go to them when they finally are ready, and then they're talking about, oh, this computer's slow. So in between the person next to them checking people in, they're trying to have them print some of my stuff because the computer's slow. So this just takes a whole bunch of time. And then eventually I finally get my boarding pass, and I feel like I'm so relieved because I went through all of that. And mind you, this whole process of me waiting and people checking my stuff took about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And this is by the time I got my boarding pass. It's not even security line or anything. I'm glad I did get there 3.5 hours early, because who knows if I would have tried to cut it closer than that. So once I got my boarding pass, now I'm ready for security. And security is not too far of a walk, so I walk down to security, and security looks pretty sweet. Normally in America, you can get your boarding pass pretty quickly depending on what airport you're at. And then it's the security line that's pretty long, but in this Lagos airport, it's backwards. So there's literally only one person in this security line. And I'm like, sweet, smooth sailing from here. So I get in line, show my boarding pass and passport, to one guy, and this is the same thing as with previously. There's somebody right next to him doing the same function, but I have to go to both of them. Like one person checks it and say you're good, so I was ready walking past, and they're like, "Oh nope, you got to go over here." So I go over there, and the dude that pretty much does the same thing, except now he punches this stuff into the computer as opposed to just looking at it. It's just a waste of time to have two people doing the same thing and only one person does the final step per se. So I get through him, go through security, the actual screening part of it. The screening was chill, nothing different or spectacular. So immediately right outside of the security screening is the duty free store. And if you don't know about duty free is basically things are tax free as you're traveling internationally. So normally airports just put them right when you get off a plane, but this was the first time I felt like it was right as I'm trying to go onto the plane. But when I say immediately, like, it's not like the store was off to the side and I gotta walk past it. You literally have to walk through the store in order to get to your gate. And of course, as you're doing that, you're getting past there. There's somebody waiting at the waiting at the entrance after I get my bags to go through the store. So she's walking beside me, trying to get me to buy something. Meanwhile, still trying to get tips for whatever reason. And I was trying to play it cordial, casual. Yeah, I'm going back home. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to Qatar too." I guess she was trying to be smooth with me or something, but wasn't working. And eventually, I had to just dub her and be like, "I'm good. I'll see you later." And right when I'm literally like I'm like 5 steps past the duty free store, then I start getting thirsty. I'm like, damn, maybe I should have just got some water in the duty free, and I could have just tipped her, something chill. But I was being stubborn at the time. So as soon as I get through the duty free, there's that long hallway that I had when I was coming there. I don't know if it's the exact same hallway, but it was pretty long, almost exactly similar. And then to the left, there's a couple shops, but these shops are like super tiny, small, nothing really catching your eye. Like, you don't really want to shop there. In my head, I'm figuring, oh, there'll be something closer to the gate where I can get some water. So I'm walking down this long hallway, and this is no sights. Like, just walking, it would probably take 5 to 7 minutes to walk down that long hallway to get to the gate. So I'm halfway through the hallway, and then some guys, trying to help tell people where to go and everything. And I'm like, is there some place to get water down here? And he's like, "Oh no, you gotta go back this way." And this was down the hallway I just walked. And so now he's trying to lead me down the hallway to get some water. And in my head, I'm like, he's trying to work for this tip. But at least I appreciate it because he's making some effort to get a tip as opposed to just asking without doing anything to benefit me personally. That's just how I feel on the situation. So he leads me to a store where I can get water. I got water, and now I gotta walk all the way back down. So I walk all the way down the hallway, and now I think I'm pretty good. There's a line to get into the gate area, you could say. So I'm just waiting. I probably have like 15 minutes to board. They start boarding a little bit early, but I guess because it's a lot of stuff going on. And so now that was that part, and then there's even more checks after that. So the first line I'm in, the guy checks your boarding pass and he sees what seat you're in and basically matches it up. And so I do that. Easy, chill. Literally 10 feet behind this guy, another guy doing the exact same thing. Literally the exact same thing. Taking his time, finding your name or your sequential number and checking it off. Like, okay. After this guy, there's some more security. And to me, it's completely nonsensical. If you see the sense, let me know. but there's somebody checking your bags, but this person is actually going in your bags as opposed to just a security screening machine. This person has me open up my backpack, checking all the pockets. She don't even know what she's looking for, and she's asking for money, but one, I couldn't quite hear what she was saying. What I noticed, at least a lot of times when I was talking to Nigerians, is a lot of times they don't enunciate the best. So, and they also talk a little bit low or like mumble a little bit. So I didn't know exactly what she was saying. I'm just trying to be pleasant, smile and wave kind of thing, like smile, nod your head. And then I heard something about Christmas gift, and this is a week after Christmas, so one, it's too late for too late for any Christmas gifts, but two, it finally allowed me to put it together. She basically wanted a tip, and consciously, I'm thinking, why would I give you a tip for searching me? I should give you a tip to not search me, but you already in the process of searching me, and it's funny because I said, sorry, I don't have any more naira. Like I'm going back home. I spent everything. When I said that, she was checking my waist bag, and I had a roll of naira in there because that's what I was using for tips. And I don't know if she saw it, and it didn't click in my head that I had that in there until after she gave my stuff back. But when I said that, she like sucked her teeth and just zipped my stuff up. I was like, all right, go ahead. But I'm like, I wonder if she seen the money, and like that's what made her more mad. I was lying to her face. And so right after that screening, there's another guy who's doing the wand, and it wasn't no serious wand. He was just, you know, the meme where he's barely checking, but so he's doing that, and this guy is asking for money too. And I was going to lie to him too. I'm not going to lie, but I had maybe $5 worth of naira in my pocket, and so when I empty my pockets, I was holding up the naira in my hand. I knew he could see that, so I'm like, dang, I can't lie to him now where he can clearly see it. So I gave him like $1 or two, and finally I thought that was the end of all the checks. All the people in the waiting area at the gate, they were spread out because of COVID. You know, certain chairs you weren't supposed to sit in, they were X'd out. But the last guy who I tapped, he saw me standing, and then a couple other people were standing too, and he just was telling us to sit in these spots that were X'd out. And it's just funny. I'm like, would he have done this if I didn't tip him? I don't know, but I guess that's what you call service. All of this basically took all the time that I had. Even though I got there 3.5 hours early, by the time I got through that last screening, they were already starting to board. Now, when it's time to board, there's somebody who checks my boarding pass at the gate, who actually scans it. But after it being scanned, I've never seen this before. There's somebody literally in the middle of the tunnel that goes to the airplane. There's somebody in the middle with a stand who's checking the seat number of everybody. And this was the exact same thing that two people already did, 20, 30 minutes ago. And in my head, I'm just so confused. Like, what is your purpose? And this guy was just cracking jokes, trying to be funny. I mean, he was enjoying his time, but I don't know why he was there. It was no real meaning or importance. It's not like he was telling you where to sit. He was just checking to see who was on the plane. But it's like, if you already did this 3 times, how many more times can you check? Maybe you can count it up, but just a rough estimate, I'm guessing that was like around 10, 11 checks as opposed to 4 while you're trying to get on the airplane. And so I'm guessing the reason that there so many checks is just giving more people opportunities to get tips. I did read prior to coming, the whole culture is like a lot of times workers tip their bosses or like give them Christmas gifts, and in turn the bosses might place them in areas where they can make more money. Like the position itself might not make them more money, but the area they're in might have more tourists and travelers, or have more people walking by, so then that way they have more opportunities for tips. So it's kind of like a whole cycle of getting tips and then, you know, giving some gifts to your boss so you can make more tips. I hope it's not common everywhere, but that's what I heard, and it's unfortunate that things are like that. But that adds to why the airport is so hectic. I will say that. That's the end of this rant. Obviously can't help you too much, but hopefully this video will help you mentally prepare so you're not flustered when you arrive to Lagos or when you're trying to leave out the Lagos airport. So like, comment, subscribe. If you have any more questions for me about Lagos, Nigeria, comment below. Thank you.